Welcome everyone to our webinar this evening. This is the second in a series of webinars that Fast Forward will conduct and will continue, of course, into next year. And I'm very, very happy tonight to welcome Suyan Sanches to be the presenter for tonight. Suyan and I have worked together for several months, and I know her to be a very intelligent and informative person. She speaks English very well. I know she's probably going to say, Mike, I don't, but she does. And the information that she's going to share with you tonight is very valuable things that you can use in many, many, many different ways. So welcome to the webinar. And Suyan, I'm going to turn it over to you now.
Great. Thanks, Mike. Thanks for having me. Let me share my screen with you to start. Just a second. Mm-hmm. Can you see my screen?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah, great. So, hello, everyone. I'm thrilled to be here with you today to talk about how to make our communication memorable and how to influence others. I'm working on digital payment industry, and I'm responsible for new partnerships and business development. And the main idea of my job is connect companies, people, and do business. And we do business with people. So if you don't understand about people, you don't do business. That's the main thing here. So communication is really important, no matter what you do for a living, in what field. You always need to talk well, to express yourself, and to share your ideas. So let's talk about communication. It's something that I really love to talk about. Just a second. Okay. So starting meeting your audience. The first thing for a good presentation or for a meeting is understand your audience. So who am I talking to? You know, what kind of audience I'm talking to. So you can research online, Google it, or LinkedIn, try to know more about the person you are talking, or at least the culture, you know. So I have a meeting with a person from another country. It's very nice and cordial to know some things about this place, you know, because cultural things could be tricky. I had some experience with that. So, for example, Korean people, it's polite to greeting the oldest person in the room first, and then the other people, you say hello to the others. So it's a tricky thing. It's just a little thing, but really important if you want to connect with these people in a first contact that you have. I had one situation some years ago with Indian people. You know, India is a very huge country with a different cultures inside, and there's a part of very restrict culture, and they just use their hands, the right hands to eat, and the left hand to hygiene. And I tried to shake hands with him, and it was awkward because they don't do this. So it's one example of a tricky thing that not do, or maybe you could do to connect with these people and to, you know, to show your respect. Because when you know about others, you show respect about their culture and understand a little about them. It's also important to call people about their names. And if you don't know, if you use the last name, the first name, or maybe something formal like Mr. or Miss, ask, no problem with that. Or how to pronounce, no problem. Just ask before start your conversation. And you never be wrong with that. So no problem with asking. Another good thing is think about what you're gonna say. So okay, I understand my audience, and now what I gonna say. So structure your ideas, structure your presentation, or even know exactly what to want to talk. So after this presentation, what information I want my audience remember, or what action they have to do, or what feeling I want I want them feel about my presentation. So set this kind of intention and structure your presentation, especially to focus on what is important, not talk about the different things and forgot what you're talking, and and do your presentation confusing. So it's important to focus, structure, and there's two tips here that I really like. One is storytelling. I really love storytelling. It's a very good technique, but it's a huge technique. So maybe in another webinar we can talk about just about storytelling. It's a very nice technique to structure your ideas, to talk in a very good way to people understand you, what are you talking. And another strategy is rehearsing. Rehearsing is not to memorize every single word about your presentation, but it's to remember your structure, write down the main topics and how to connect these dots during your speech. It's very good to remember what you're gonna say and not forget anything. So now I really want to know if someone has interesting story about cultural differences, or maybe some story about presentation to share with us. I can see you, so just say, I don't know, Mike, I can see you.
I certainly have one, but it's not the point for me to talk. Do any of you have any things that you'd like to share with Suyan before I give you my cultural one? Sounds like I'm on. Well, as maybe some of you know, certainly people who've been my students, I used to teach in a language school for 10 years. And in the early parts of those years, I was not aware of all the cultural differences that existed. And before that, my wife and I were a host family for students. And I remember receiving a student from Japan, and I went to the Philadelphia International Airport to meet her. And this little girl, and she with a big backpack on, and she came out, and I was like, "Oh, I'm so happy to see you." And I gave her a big hug, and she turned into a stone statue, like this, like she did. And I was like, "Oh." And so I learned very quickly that there's, especially the greetings and the touching things, that's something that you have to be very, very mindful of. If you come from a country in Latin America or South America, of course, it's quite common to meet somebody with a hug or a kiss or something like that. But boy, if you don't do that in Japan or Korea or China, it's much more reserved for that. So that's my little story. I have many with that, and one last one that I will share with you is that people do time differently. In the United States, and Suyan is a partnership person, we make deals fairly quickly here. Like we say, okay, you got what I need, I like your price, boom, let's go. It doesn't always work that way, and I found that out certainly in Brazil. Things move a little bit more slowly there, and sometimes it takes months until people are comfortable enough with you personally to make that business transaction. So those are just some of my own things. Alice, it's good to see you. Welcome.
Hi, thanks.
Okay.
I had one experience similar than the first one you shared with us with a Korean. I went to New York to study English, and I met a Korean. I think it was a guy, and I was saying hi. I was going to say hi, giving a kiss, and when I was going, and he gave a step back. Yes. And it was pretty similar, and I didn't realize, even though my family is from Japan, my grandma was born in Japan, and I know they don't like this kind of way to say hi. They are more formal, but I didn't realize at that moment. I just went there, and it was automatically. It's something that we really need to think about it.
Yeah, that's interesting, because in your situation, it was okay, but probably if you were in a corporate or business situation, that could be a problem. My situation with the Indian guy was in a corporate environment, so it was terrible. Terrible. That's why it's good to have these things in mind, right? Mike, you are saying something? Sorry.
I don't want to say it, and because I want you to talk, and so because I've got many examples, but we have a lot of other people here, and I want them to talk. So I'm always happy to provide, but you guys, you're anybody else who would want to like add some things to that. I was going to say that the world is getting smaller in terms of our partners that we're going to be working with in terms of our future, whether you're whatever business you're in, if it's finance or IT or whatever, you're going to be working with people in different countries, and maybe you will be meeting them in person. Even so, even if it's just remote, there's still some customs and things like that you should be aware of, and also they should be aware of too. That it's not all about you have to know, they should know too. So, but that was my thing. So
one last thing here is about adapt your speech. It's something that is really important, because when you're gonna make a presentation or talk about something, it's really good to understand the level of understanding about the other person. So for instance, if you are talking to a senior executive, probably it's better to talk straight to the point, exactly the main points or results that you want to talk. But if this person is more junior and don't have a lot of information, it's nice and polite to give more context and give more details, really explain about what you're talking, because in both situations you could lose your audience if you do not set this expectation, really set the level of understanding. So my audience, who are and what they know about my topic. So that's a good way to not lose your audience and to be clear with everyone. So continue. If someone wants to talk something, just say, because I can't see anyone. Okay. And want you to help you is asking question. I know that could sound like, okay, that's easy, but not exactly. But asking questions is really helpful. First, because it shows interest. When you ask something, the other person feel some important and see how you are interested in what they are talking and about their lives and everything. So I see sometimes people who think they have to talk a lot to influence others, but usually that's the opposite. When you show interest and ask questions, this help you to find mutual links between you and the other person. And for example, if you are talking to a person and you saw sorry, who are talking about the experience with the Korean person?
It's me, Alice.
Alice. So for instance, I'm talking to Alice and my dream is to know New York, and she talked about an experience about New York because she studied there. And I say, oh my God, it's my dream to go to New York. And she has a lot of tips to give me about New York. You know, we find a connection point, a mutual like. This is very nice because create connection between people. And this kind of connection is exactly what we want to do business. We want this person remembers us. We want to find mutual links to improve this kind of connection. When we ask something to another person, this question the other person has to answer your question. And people like to talk, like to answer, because when you are answering something, you feel important and it raises your dopamine. When raises your dopamine, you feel pleasure, you feel great, and you will remember the other person better. You have good memories about the other person because the person feel excited to answer this question. So please think about someone that you have in a nice memory. And if you have felt special with this person, in which situation did you feel that? Any comments? Anyone? Do you want to share anything here?
Yeah. Again, I always have this thing. So if you don't mind,
I can see you, Mike.
No, I sometimes think that if somebody says it, then other people will follow. And sometimes people are a little afraid. And this reminds me of a webinar that I did called, No Fear. But Alice knows all about this. But last week I interviewed a new student, and she's from Barcelona, and she is a career coach, like Medichelle, actually. And I interviewed her. I asked her the standard questions and things like that. And then she said to me, "Excuse me, Mike," she said, "but could you tell me more about you? Could you tell me more about you? And like, how did you start this whole thing? And like, tell me your," and I was so like taken back by that, because that's normally what I say. And she sort of took that from me. And that, as you say, Suyan, that created an immediate bond for me, because she was interested in me personally, and how the business started. And I love to talk about that, but I never say, "Hey, you want to know how I start my business?" But if somebody asks about it, they show interest, and it creates that excitement that you mentioned. And so I think 10 minutes of just talking to her about the stuff, and that's a very memorable thing for me. If she takes only 5 classes and stops, I'll still remember that. It's a very exciting thing for me. So that's my little example of that. Very cool. I hope you get a chance to meet her someday. I think you may come, if you come to the conversation group on Friday, you may get a chance to meet her. Very, very nice and very smart lady.
Very nice story. I'm sure you always remember her. I like to ask questions also to make other person connect dots and not just show my ideas and impose my ideas. And in this topic especially, I use a lot in feedbacks in a leadership situation, because when you say something for a person, okay, you have to do it. It's okay, you have to do it is an information. And if you are a leader, probably the person gonna do what you are asking. But it's completely different when you ask questions, so this person really understand why they have to do this, and they really understand, because when they will answer your question, they think, oh, of course I have to do it, I'm saying that in my answer. This is really, really helpful, because it's not you saying, it's the person saying with their answer, because they are how can I say that, the person is really connecting dots to say, oh, now I got it, I really have to do it because of this and that. So use more questions to conduct your conversations, or maybe to say your idea, but not in an imposed way, or even to connect with others, to find these mutual likes, or to show interest. I guarantee you're gonna have more memorable conversation, and other person will remember about you, about your conversation. And if it's a business situation, I'm sure it's gonna be very nice. Can I go forward here?
Sure.
And of course, if you are asking question, you have to listen the answer. Yeah. I see a lot of people who don't pay attention in the answer, because during the answer, the person is already thinking about what gonna say. And this is not a conversation. Because a conversation, both parts have to be engaged, both parts have to be connected to share ideas, to share information. One asks, the other answer, listen, it's a dance. It's a dance, because if you are not willing to learn with the answer, and if you are not willing to really listen what the other person has to say, it's not a conversation. One other thing that I see a lot is a person who wants to tell a lot of stories. So don't do this. Don't talk a lot of stories, or how your stories are amazing comparing to others. This is not connect with other. It's not a problem, of course, to share your ideas or your stories. It's very nice. But if a person say, oh my God, I have a problem, and you say, oh, I have a bigger problem, that's not a conversation. You are not listening to the person problem. So this not helps to find mutual connection, and it's not good to anyone in the conversation. So just listen, try to be really engaged on the conversation, and it's not a competition. So you don't have to show how your story is better or nicer than the other. I like to use this expression, conversation is a dance. So you have to be engaged with more. If more people are involved, no problem, but everyone have to talk and listen with an open-minded approach. Mike or anyone want to share some thoughts here?
Well, this is the part of the thing that I was referring to in the beginning before Suyan started. This is exactly the thing where you have good intentions, and someone starts to talk to you, and you volunteer information instead of listening to them. You present a similar situation, maybe out of a good intention to say, I understand what you're going through because I went through something similar, but it can be perceived as being competitive to what they're saying, as opposed to just listening to it and not saying, I did this too, or I went to Spain myself one time, and we do try to make these connections, as Suyan said a little bit earlier, but you have to be perceptive enough to know when that's appropriate and when it's not appropriate. Sometimes people just want you to listen and be empathetic, or to understand them, rather than to have a competition to see who had the longer vacation or who has the bigger problem with that. This is the thing that I practiced several times from Suyan after learning this last week, that I sometimes do it with my students, and I think, oh my God, I'm guilty of this thing myself. Out of trying to be good, I sometimes and that's what I don't want. So this for me is a really, really important thing, to be able to actively listen rather than to sort of break the conversation. Is that sometimes you should be more of a listener than a speaker, and I think this is very valuable for that, for sure. People love to be listened to, So that's my story. I want you to listen to Suyan now and not me.
Yeah, listening is a skill, so could be practiced. And some other things are important as well, like if you are listening to someone, do not use cell phones, for example, because if you are typing, probably you are not paying attention. And besides shows respect, you have to be open to listen, to really pay attention. This is very important as well. And some final information is, of course, we talk a little about what to communicate, your audience, your way to speak. So questions, listen. But there's another important thing, is your body. I see a lot of people who really knows a lot of things about the topic, have a lot of content, but their posture shows the opposite. And it's terrible, because sometimes you have some doubts about what the person is talking. So I don't know, he really know about that? I'm not sure. So your posture, pay attention, your shoulders back to show, your confidence. Use your hands, because gestures are so important. We know that since we born, children learn a lot about hands gestures, express size, if something is big or small, or go fast. It's something simple, but helps. There's some people who are really visual, so they learn better if they see some image. So if you use your gesture, probably this person will remember about what you're saying. And for sure, best communicators use mouth and hands, because just help you, use the tools that you have to help you to talk, to express your ideas, and to talk about what you want to a project, or whatever. And there's an universal thing that is a smile. It's good in every single part of the world. There's no place smile is something bad. It's the opposite. Smile is always good. Show your good intention, to show you are open for a good conversation. It always helps. And another thing that helps a lot is avoid to be negative. The negative here is not just about controversial topics like politics. Politics is something complicated to talk, especially in a negotiation when you are in a business environment or with a person from another country, because you don't know exactly how things happen, in other country. So it's complicated to touch on this. And when I say avoid to be negative, it's also, start a conversation with, for example, oh my God, today was a terrible traffic here in São Paulo. I arrived late, and oh my God, why are you starting your conversation like that? Start with a good mood, talk about good things, wow, that's almost Christmas. That's nice, though, try to choose good things to talk, because when you start a meeting or a presentation in a good mood, the meeting starts better than a bad mood. Why you want to create a bad mood in your meeting? It's not nice. Be yourself, okay? It's also really, really important. Use these tools that we talked to conduct your meeting, but just to conduct. You don't have to be a robot, just be yourself. Talk about something that you like, something good, make connection, especially in another language. I struggle with this a lot, especially in English, because always thinking about, oh my God, I have to talk perfectly. And no perfection. When you realize there's no perfection, and doesn't matter the language, you try to make connection, and that's what matters. There's no perfection in any kind of conversation or any language. So especially who are learning another language, when you think a lot about perfection, you probably gonna lose your connection, So try to be yourself, relax, talk, and create this kind of connections. Is going to be very, very well. Storytelling and rehearsing, as I said, very good strategies to express and structure your ideas. Storytelling has a very good a very good side about chronological stuff, so start with this and then that and then that. This kind of structure helps the other person to understand exactly how it started and then what's happened and how finished. So very good strategy. I really recommend to use them. And of course, negotiation and partnerships should be good for both parts. So start all this kind of conversation with a win-win mindset. So both parts really have to feel they are winning, have to be good for both. So like make connection, try to make good thing for both parts. Here in your right, I think, there's an article that I really recommend to read. So if you read with your cell phone, you're gonna open this article about conversation, about express yourself, language, mouth, hands, and everything. I really recommend that. And that's all for today, guys. I don't know if you have any questions or thoughts. Here are my contacts.
Thomas, say anything?
It is so nice to hear about everything, the skills that you need to make impression and navigate through this professional world, because I had few memories from a really, really important person and pharmaceutical companies from Georgia about the negativity, he always was affected by politics, and every meeting, we had monthly meeting with him, I remember it was so tense, like we knew we would not be able to achieve anything with him because the meeting was starting with negative fit and we could not get through him. But when we met personally and when we was able to start conversation, that was very different, because when you start conversation and you leading that, you can really bring the tune of it. So that's very important. And when Suyan brought it, it just like made me feel that I went through that so many times. So I agree with that. It's so important to be on very positive mood when you want to achieve something, and also to make good impression.
Yeah, for sure. Alice, in your role as a psychologist, do you encounter people who are like extremely negative most of the time?
Yes, a lot of people, and a lot of people who wants to compete, to be competitive to others. Once I heard a friend of mine, and she said, "Oh, it's so good to talk to you because you really listen to me." Because a lot of people who I talk to, they just want to talk their problems, and she always started to talking something that happened to her, and then the person didn't listen to her, because sometimes you can listen to the person and then you can share your story too. But the most of people, or a lot of people, they are always saying that their problem is bigger than the other person. It's so terrible. And the negative way to say something, it's also a problem. When Suyan said about the negativity, it's also the way you say something. Sometimes you start saying a statement using a negative way. Sometimes you can try to talk in a different way, saying something positive, or when you ask something, don't you want to, maybe you can try to say in a different way. But I actually, as Suyan said, it's always about people, and people, they have their issues. So they need to do some therapy and then they are going to be better.
Yeah,
Yes,
therapy
but
for everyone. I
yeah,
really believe in this.
No,
it's not because I'm psychologist,
no,
but I really believe.
no, no. You know, I talk, and I'm not a psychologist either, but sometimes I play one. It's pretty funny. Sometimes students talk to me because they just want to talk to me, and it's good practice for them to be able to express themselves in another language. But I definitely have the feeling that some of them just talk to me because I listen to them, and it's, again, it's good practice for them, but it's better for them emotionally to be able to talk to someone. And just to follow up on one thing that Suyan said, if you are a good listener, you will never want for friends. You will be a very popular person, whether you want that or not. There will always be people who will want to talk with you, and that's a good thing in business. Because I think all of us know the power of networking, and the techniques and some of the skills that Suyan mentioned tonight are very powerful. And I will tell you that just that one thing that I mentioned earlier is very successful. It's just, you can tell anybody about yourself. You don't have to tell everybody about yourself, and it's not a comparison. We're not kids in the second grade anymore, where I have a red bike and I got a green bike. It's not that. And so it's just about being able to listen, and also to be able to communicate in a manner where everybody you understand people, and again, they should understand you too. I want to stress that as a last word. When people work with us, many people come and they say, I want to be perfect. And again, this is something that Suyan said. And when perfect is the enemy of the good, as I'm not sure if it was Voltaire or some philosopher said that. And those people who come and they want to be perfect, they're going to be disappointed for that. And so just people come to us and we want to help them. Obviously, these are some techniques that go beyond language. You know, use it as a wife, as a brother, as a son, as a husband, whatever, to be able to communicate ideas more effectively and to listen to more effectively. So I want to thank Suyan for her presentation tonight. It was fantastic, and you know, I'm always happy to learn things, but especially happy that I can learn stuff and use it immediately, which is something I've always wondered about language, to be able to use things immediately. And it's nice to see some of you, and you know, unusual for the first time, and it's wonderful to see people coming back. Kaliandri, it's nice to see you here. And funny story, Kaliandri used to be my neighbor. Like, she used to live right next door to me in the house right here when she went to school in Philadelphia several years ago. So it's nice to see you guys. Suyan had her contact information there. If any of you guys need to or want to ask her some follow-up questions about her presentation, she's been gracious enough to say that. And does anybody have any final thoughts? Any final questions? Suyan, any final thoughts from you on this?
No, actually, I said in the beginning, it's very good to know more about people and behavior to do business, and it doesn't matter what you do for a living. So that's a topic that I really like, not just to do business because it's my work, but for be a better leader as well, you know, because my team, I have to talk with them as well. So communication, it's a very good tool for that, to share ideas, to align everything you need. So I really believe in a good communication, and it's a skill. So how to improve your ability and how to improve that for achieve whatever you want. That's all. And if you need anything, do not hesitate to contact me. You have my contact, so I'm here to talk to you.
Well, again, I wanted to say thanks to Suyan, of course, for the presentation, and thanks all of you for coming. I know it's a little late there in Brazil, and you know, for me, I'm just going to have my dinner now because it's just coming up on 7 o'clock here. So thank you all again for coming. I hope you have a wonderful evening, and I will be you know, watching the Brazil match, I think on this Friday, right?
Friday, yeah.
And who knows, maybe we'll play each other in the semifinals or something like that. So we shall see. So Suyan, thanks again. Have a good night, everybody.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.